the Author Strong podcast, where we give writers the tools they need to succeed. Matt Morris here, and as always, I'm joined by Nancy Elliott. Nancy, how's it going?
Awesome. Awesome. How are you, Matt?
No, it's so funny. Um,
Is it funny? Is that the word you would use to describe this problem?
when I explain what the problem, I just realized as I started talking is you're gonna laugh at me, and
Okay.
everyone else will probably laugh at me as well. We are joined today by Robert Chazz Chute.
Woo!
How's it going?
I am outraged. It's dark here at 4 in the afternoon.
Oh
And
my gosh.
every fresh day is another kick in the belly. Just like my father explained to me when he kicked me in the belly each morning, and as his pappy did to him each morning. It's
Aw.
sad. I bought winter gloves today, Matt, and you are in Houston. How dare you ask me that?
I I threw on shorts. Does that count?
Yeah, I hate you. I hate you now.
Excellent. Let me explain the problem because it's going to work out now. Let me explain the
Okay.
problem that I just encountered. So, Robert, thanks for joining us. We are celebrating our 200th episode. This is going to be our 200th episode, okay? Now,
Yay.
out of 200 plus, technically, that we've recorded, I've never actually started the show without actually recording. So that literally just happened. Where
What?
we started, so we're doing a live show, right? Everyone's watching, right? So I turned on the broadcast, and as I started talking, I realized that my recording software that I normally have, like first thing going, wasn't going.
Oh.
Oh, so you missed recording my obnoxious rant?
I started with your rant.
Yes, that's perfect.
The 200th
Excellent.
episode, when it comes out officially, will probably start with Robert Chazz Chute's rant
Best way to start it.
after our normal intro. So anyone
I
can,
thought Canadians were so nice, but when they're cold, they get angry.
yeah, exactly.
Must be a lot.
That's what was going on.
Oh, I thought you were going to be
Beautiful.
upset about your wine key going missing.
I wasn't gonna say anything. I normally do. So I've got my wine sitting right here. Anyone watching? That's my wine. I normally drink. I open a bottle of
We
those
know.
every single one of our live shows, right? And so
Uh-huh.
I sip on.
Every single live show? Oh boy. Okay, keep going.
And we've only done like 6 of them or so. Um,
I know, I'm trolling you.
I know.
It'll take a few years before he needs another chair next to him for his liver. It'll be okay.
Yeah, my liver got at least a year or two left on it. And so I couldn't find. I went like I was running around my house just like a crazy person 15 minutes ago trying to find my wine opener, and I couldn't find it. So
Hmm.
we'll maybe have that for dessert later. Womp womp. Never fear though. I did get something else, another piece to
Woo!
consume while we talk. So everyone who's watching live, thank you so much. This is our big. It's not really big. It was going to be bigger, but it's still kind of big. 200th episode. So, and it's our live show for November as well, which is crazy since we just did a live show 2 weeks ago. And
Well, you know how November is.
yes, I do. I do know how November is. And that's the point of this conversation too. We wanted to. Robert and I were talking yesterday. We're like, what are we going to talk about, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, maybe we could talk about NaNoWriMo. And I was like, I don't know if anyone's going to want to hear about NaNoWriMo. And then,
Right.
And then I was like, maybe we could talk about, because we're almost at the new year, right? I mean, still a month and a half away. And Robert's like, both of those are good topics. Let's do both of them together. It's like, yes, that's a good idea, actually. Let's talk about NaNoWriMo, persevering through NaNoWriMo, right? Because everyone's going to be in the middle of it. And then what's going to happen next, not only with the new year, but specifically with NaNoWriMo. Like, what can you actually do after November, right?
Yes.
And so also today I wanted to do another giveaway. Nancy didn't really talk. You and I talked about it a little bit like weeks ago. We've got
Yeah.
the Author Strong tutorials course that's
Mhm.
launching later this month.
Okay, right.
It's officially going to be launching on December 1st, and so but I'm going to have a pre-release time a little bit before that for I'll say friends and family, but the Author Strong family, right?
Yes.
And so I wanted to do a giveaway though, and I think I'm going to do 2 people where I'm just going to give them the course, and so
Cool.
it'll be people
Nice.
that are talking right now. So we did a giveaway during our 100th episode, right? And so
Right.
we used a phrase in there for the 100th episode, and it was a phrase that we had talked about. I forget who we talked about it with first.
Oh,
Talked about like live brighter, right?
yes. Yes.
And so everyone who's in the chat right now, put live brighter in the chat, and I will enter you into my spreadsheet of awesome, and then we'll do the drawing later on, and I'll just put everyone who's putting lip right here just to make sure I get everybody, and I'll search that out, and then we'll towards the end of the show we'll randomly select I think 2 people, and we'll talk about it afterwards, but I'll give you access to the course. And so
don't miss your chance, people. Get that in there. We shall tolerate no lurkers.
Yeah, and bonus bonus Matt points if you spell it correctly.
Oh my gosh! Wait, do you have this written down somewhere for what the actual official spelling is?
It's only 1 letter off, so I was able to, I know beyond all expectation of me, I was able to remember it.
Okay, so you tried to be snide there, but it didn't work. It just fell flat on its face.
By the way,
you have to work harder than that.
Thank you everybody also for everyone who's saying congratulations. Thank you very much.
Oh gosh, comments.
Yeah, there are comments. Perfect. So let's talk about NaNoWriMo. Let's talk about just kind of digging into the month, and then we're about halfway through. When this comes out, we'll be halfway through, and then just kind of what it takes to persevere, and then also what's going to be happening with everyone's novels, like what they can do to actually take their NaNoWriMo novel and do something with it after November.
Mm-hmm.
Robert, I'm not sure. Are you participating in the normal Nano? Or are you doing something special for it? We haven't actually talked about it yet.
Yeah, it seems like I haven't talked to you in a couple weeks. It's a long time.
Like 2 weeks for us feels like a really long time. Because we usually talk once or twice a week, almost like on Google Hangout type things once or twice a week. Not to mention just like random, snide remarks thrown at each other.
Well, to answer your question, snidely, I would say right now I'm at 23,000. This is the first day I haven't written anything yet. I spent the day editing because I'm just about to bring out another book, and I've been too delayed on the publication date. But it's we're only here for an hour, so I still have time to make a couple thousand words today. But I'm not doing a novel. I'm doing a nonfiction book. So I think what I would say about NaNoWriMo is right about now, or actually, yeah, just about now, maybe even a few days ago, people began to drop off where they hit that wall and just go, oh, this is a little more difficult than I thought it might be. They're not getting their numbers, they're not making their daily word count, or they've fallen a little bit behind, and so they get a little bit discouraged. And for those people, I would encourage them to use all the tools that NaNoWriMo gives you. I love the metrics. I love graph. I love getting my word count above the trend on the graph. And go to a meetup and get back into the spirit of NaNoWriMo that got you into it at the beginning of the month. Because Nano has some really cool tools to keep you on track, and maybe a little bit of sociability, maybe doing some writing sprints with other people can get you back on track if you have fallen behind. Because there's still lots of months left. We're not even halfway through the month.
That's great advice. I love the meetups that the write-ins that Nano puts on. And really, it's going to be dependent on your area, on how active people are and how big of an area it is. But Nancy, that's how you and I met. We were just at one last night, the big one that we go to on Wednesday nights.
Mm-hmm.
And ton of fun, not only for networking but also for motivation. Last night was, maybe because Nancy was there, last night I think that there was a few people who got a lot of writing done, but overall it was a little bit more social. Nancy, you weren't there the week before that, and there was a ton of writing that got done by a lot of people. And so
I heard. That seemed really productive, which we should really carry on after November is finished, because I know that's sort of a complaint, is we just turn into a drinking group with a writing problem, and not the other way around.
Yeah, my friends have a writing problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a very valid point. And so, the write-ins are a great thing. Robert, you also mentioned word sprints. And I want to come back around on this, because if you're not doing word sprints, especially if you're falling behind, man, that is a great way to catch up. Especially if you can do it by yourself, right? That's the whole idea of write or die, and that's another tool you can use is write or die to help get through it. But man, doing word sprints with people. I remember when I did the 50K last year. I think it was predominantly in the first one. There was a girl who I know her through Nano here in Houston as well, and she was watching in my stream, and she wanted to do sprints, and so we would do sprints just when I was streaming, and everyone there would like join up, and it was a lot of fun. But man, it makes it so much easier to get word count done and really kind of dig in and get a lot of words done. And if you just do one of the write-ins we went to last year, the overnight rate, we had this essentially the whole night we kept it up. It was like 15 minutes on and 15 minutes off, and so it was like a 15-minute word sprint followed by a 15-minute break, 15-minute word sprint, 15-minute break, so that 30 minutes out of every hour you were, trying to write very quickly. And by the end of the write-in, which was, I don't know, probably like 4 or 5 hours, I would say the majority of people there had written well over 5,000 words.
That's impressive.
I think I came to that event late. Like I came and then a bunch of y'all left. I don't know, but I got like 6,000 words from that for the length of time that I was there, which is insane for me.
Yeah, I was there pretty late. I think I was there until like 1 or 2 in the morning. I mean, it was an overnight write thing. It didn't even start, I think, until like 8. But
yeah.
But
yeah, those word sprints are where it's at.
Man, they can be incredible. They can be incredible.
And if you can't do it in person, you can do it online. Matt and I have done that. I've done that with CC Wall a couple times too. It's really cool where you do a Google Hangout, you mute each other's microphones, and you're writing together, thousands of miles apart. But as long as the other person, it's like having an accountability partner, or if maybe you're a little bit competitive, then you kind of feel like, I'm not going to quit till he quits, and she's not going to quit until I quit, and you get a little bit more done.
Yeah, it's super nice. Those are fun. You might have to try doing one of those. I think a couple of people were joining me. I was streaming it, around the 1st, 2nd, 3rd. I was doing a lot more streaming on Twitch when I was at the beginning of the month, and I think there were a few people who were just joining me, and they would basically just have it kind of like open, and so they, so it feels like you're being social and around people while doing something that's very, very alone.
Mm-hmm.
The Google Hangouts is a great way to do that. You don't even have to be like broadcasting like we are now. You can do this privately, so that only the people invited are there, and essentially just have like a mini virtual write-in, and it can be a lot of fun. We might want to we should consider scheduling one of those later on.
Yeah, we should do that. I think that it's really true. Just, well, all of us love the internet, so you don't have to see people in real life to feel like you got something socially out of it. So we should do that.
Yeah, definitely. So if anyone's interested in that, leave it in the comments here, or even just shoot us an email after this comes out, and we'll see if we can get one of those scheduled, 1 or 2 of those. I know my schedule will be a little bit chaotic towards the end of the month. Essentially, like the last week in November, I don't know if I'll be around much at all, which is going to be exciting. But
yay!
Pro tip: when you have friends from across several different time zones, say sprint at the top of the hour, sprint at the bottom of the hour.
Indeed.
That makes it easier regardless. And so also I know Becca Campbell, whenever she does a lot of the NaNoWriMo stuff, she does like the sprints on Twitter. And so they'll say the same thing on Twitter, like we're gonna start at the top of the hour, like 20-minute sprints starting at the top of the hour, kind of thing. And so they'll just do like little Twitter word wars, essentially, where they get an active group and they can sit there and they can do a lot of writing, and then just kind of post about it after the fact on Twitter. And so that's another option. But I mean, Robert, that's a great suggestion. Is just doing sprints in general. They can really boost your count.
I think what we should probably talk to you about, besides time management and energy management, there's also the issue of, okay, I'm here, I'm ready to write, but what do I write next? And if you have prepared, if you've done some pre-drafting, if you've got an outline to work from, all that stuff, fantastic, you're going to sail right on through. However, if you haven't done that and you don't have a time machine, we should probably talk about how you push forward. And I think most everybody I know, the issue is starting. And Augustine Burroughs once said, if you have writer's block, then write about writer's block. If you've got pain, write about pain. The most important thing is to start, and once you start, then the words will begin to flow. But also you have to kill your internal editor, or at least strangle them into unconsciousness and leave them in a locked room far away in a puddle of their own blood.
Yes, I like that.
It's all about momentum, right? It's all
Mhm.
about just building and sustaining momentum.
You know, one of the things that guides my writing, when it seems like whenever the idea of craft comes up, I'm sorry if you've heard me before talk about William Goldman, author of The Princess Bride and a whole bunch of screenplays and so on, who is a god to me. He's still alive, and he's better known as a screenwriter, but I think he is probably the most underappreciated, barely living American writer there is. And if you know it in any of his novels, one of the things that guides his work, and something that I've taken on for my work, is the when you are following a path in your plot and you don't know what to do next, then do something logical but unexpected. And I read so much of William Goldman at once one time that I had to stop and give it a rest and then come back to it, because I began to feel like I was analyzing it too much and I was getting in on the plot trick where it's like, oh, I think I know what's going to happen next. Therefore, I don't know what's going to happen next, and he's about to trick me. So, but as a writing technique, as far as, okay, this happens and this happens and this happens and this happens, what happens next? I'm stuck. My guideline is do something unexpected. Was it? I forget which detective, Pulp Fiction detective detective fiction writer said, when you don't know what to do next, send two guys in through the door with guns. But just
Especially if you're writing like a cozy romance.
yeah.
Mix it up.
Yeah.
But it does get back to that issue of the momentum of the plot, and you know, in the end, you'll be able to look back on it and see this kind of flow chart. But when you're in media res, when you're crafting in the middle of it, just try doing something unexpected. Or the other thing you can do that I think is really helpful, that probably enough people, there are a lot of people who feel like they have to write chronologically. But if you have a scene that you're dying to write, then write that scene, and then if you have another scene you're dying to write, then write that scene later in the book. It's, you know, you can write around that and string things together later if you need to, but certainly to keep the momentum going and to keep the word count up, and to keep up your enthusiasm through the month to carry you through, I think it's really helpful to focus on what you love about what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of that, of doing like the jump around method kind of thing, where you write what's exciting to you. I think one of the first times I saw that recommended to me was in Rachel Aaron's 2K to 10K, and she talked about doing it with the plotting part, not necessarily with the writing part, but it's same thing applies.
Mm-hmm.
I gave a couple workshops, one of them on fast drafting right before Nano started, and that was one thing that I advised everyone to do as well, is to, I mean, if you hit a wall, and it works whether or not you're planning a book or if you're actually writing. So we're in the middle of Nano right now, so you're sitting there writing and you kind of hit a wall, and what I mean by hit a wall is you might still be writing, but whenever I hit a wall, it's usually means that like I'm working on a scene, and a scene for whatever reason, like I know there's not much left, but I just don't know how to end it. And so I'm just kind of writing slowly and trying to figure out the perfect way, or working around different issues, or whatever the case is. And ultimately, I just spend way too much time just sitting there, like, essentially doing nothing. And so, for me, that's my wall. And to get around that, the most effective way I found to get around that is to essentially skip it, leave it open, and start writing the next scene if I know what the next scene is. If I don't know what the next scene is, and that's my wall, that's what I've hit, then it's skip to whatever I know is the next scene, right? Like whatever's coming next that I do know, and just start writing that. And invariably, using a method like this, invariably I usually figure out the in between along the way. And it's not necessarily a conscious effort. It's just whenever I come back to it, I'll come back to that scene. And I always leave a little note at the bottom, kind of says, finish this, or maybe this needs to happen still, like make this happen. And I just leave a little note there so I know that stuff needs to go on. And then usually every time I come back to it and I reread it, it makes sense, and I know how to then end it correctly, and whatever needs to happen, I figured it out at that point.
Yeah, I think it's really useful not to get hung up on the speed bumps. You can come back and make the joke that you want to end for a button at the end of a chapter, or a punch at the end of the chapter. You can always come back to that later. And something that you've talked about, Matt, that I think is incredibly important for NaNoWriMo, is to keep in mind the goal that it's not. The idea of this is not to get to 50,000 words. The idea of this is to have a story. And it would be great if you can finish that story within the month. But yeah, you want to have the word count above 50,000 words, probably. But more important than that is to have a complete story. Now, it's not done as far as you might have missing scenes here and there, and a bunch of notes that say, write something cool here, add a chapter about this there. But those speed bumps, you can smooth out those speed bumps later. The most important thing to have a book at the end, so you have something to work on at the end of the month, is to keep up the cohesion of the entire narrative.
Perfect, and that's that brings us to a great transition, and because we do want to talk about what happens after November and
after the drinking.
Yeah, exactly. And also I wanted to say, because I've seen a couple people who I think they joined us a little bit late. We are doing a giveaway for the Scrivener for Authors course that I'm going to be launching, and so we're going to give away 2 passes to that. And so just make sure that I'm including people who didn't say it, but we put the message "Live Brighter" in the chat so I can get you included. But I'm trying to include just everyone who's here, and so kind of prompting people, like, if you're not in the chat and you want to be eligible for that, make sure you're chatting and I see you and whatnot, and then I'll get you on the list. So. Just a reminder for anyone who's joined late. Now, Robert, we wanted to talk about kind of what happens next. Let's say that we've gone through, we do the 50,000, and usually by the end of the month you want to take a little bit of a break at that point. You're just kind of mentally checked out. At least I know I usually am. And so what happens next? What should our listeners focus on whenever they've completed that? What should they be doing next? What are your thoughts, Robert?
Well, if you have the complete, if you have all the scenes, then you should probably take a little break from it. At least an hour, maybe 2. Go crazy, see a movie. And if you don't have all the scenes, if you've got a bunch of pages that say, write something about the bear attacking the shoe salesman here, then I would write that chapter where the bear attacks the shoe salesman. Because while it's all still fresh in your mind, it's a lot easier to do that backfilling so you don't lose the whole book in your head. Because that's the one thing about that I think is beautiful about writing fast, is you can hold the whole novel in your head when you've written it close, all those days close together. It's all built up. You have it in one cup. But if you can't get your hands around it, I'm mixing metaphors here crazily because I'm not sure I'm clear on this, speaking clearly, but because I'm drinking from my devil cup. Yeah.
Is that a poor attempt at a festival cup or a holiday?
It is. The opportunity that you have when everything is fresh is so great that I think that after you hit the end of November, you should continue to write your scenes until you have at least the rough draft down where you have all the scenes. Then you can take some time off for however long you feel is appropriate. Some people will not be able to wait very long before they dive into the second draft. A few misguided individuals will send this off to agents immediately, but those are very few and outliers, and I don't want to contribute to the myth that that's what NaNoWriMo is all about. Um, that's just silly. Most people don't do that. That's one of the objections that a bunch of agents had about NaNoWriMo. But we're all very much well informed now, and that's a rare thing, really. So then you can get back to the editing when you feel that, and revision your second draft, read it through when you feel like you've given it enough time in the drawer. But don't leave it too long, I don't think. I think there's this kind of myth that you have to, let it sit and become more objective about it. Like, you wrote it, you're never going to be all that objective about it. Get back to revising. Get back to revising, get back to editing, write your second draft, go through, tear it up, put it back together, get your scissors out, whatever you need to do. But the most important thing with this is to get it done. And just like now, you're getting the first draft done. When you get the second draft, however many drafts you need to get to beautiful, then get to beautiful, baby. Be groovy.
I like that. I'm always torn on resting a book. My thoughts on it when the appropriate time, if there is one, and I think that'll vary. I think there is an appropriate time to rest something, and I think it does need a little bit of rest. How much rest it needs, I think, is open to individual taste.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say that I'm a big fan of getting through to a clean draft, like a very, very near final clean draft before any resting is done.
Okay, so that'll be pretty intense. That'll carry you through till Christmas.
Yeah, and so my thoughts are, if you going through Nano, hitting that 50,000 successfully, whether or not the book is completed, keep that momentum going. You've already got it ingrained. November's a busy month without Nano, so you've been through it. You're able to get through it successfully. Even if it's not 50,000, even if you've only written 30,000, but you normally write 10 or whatever the case is, keep up that momentum, keep going. Don't slow yourself down. Don't stop. And you get to the end of the first draft and go back and start cleaning it up right away. Just keep those same practices involved. And then I think the appropriate time to really rest it is, when you've got a book and you've gone through it, twice, right? Get that second revised copy. You haven't fine checked it, for all the little fine details or proofs or anything like that. But get the story out and then clean the story up and then rest it. And I think that you can be more objective on your work, but it requires a very significant amount of resting time, and that's not always for the best. And so, especially if you do want to be, if you're already publishing and you're trying to get a consistent publishing cycle, that can be very, very difficult. That significant rest. But I think that once you kind of finish a book and there's no open ends and there's no big kind of to-do list or anything like that, and you can give it a little bit of time to kind of sit, I think that you can be a little bit more objective about it. But I think the best time to do that is much later on in the process. I like the idea of writing quickly, and I like the idea of taking whatever that story idea that has you really fired up and you're really passionate about, and get through it. Don't lose that. I heard another. I always forget his name, right? And he's the lead guy, Ted, from How I Met Your Mother, right? I forget the actor's name, but he's written and I think directed a couple movies. And,
Jason.
Jason Sudeikis? Is that him?
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't watch that show.
Somebody in the chat, let us know.
Yeah, someone else in chat know. And so I saw him on a panel, and he was talking about writing, and he talked about he kind of gave two pieces of advice. He talked about the Freedom app, right, which is disables your internet, and then the other piece of advice he gave was, and I really really liked it, was basically like, I'm in a race with my own interest, right? I need to write something before I lose interest in it, because when I lose interest in it, it won't get done, and so. That was one of the things I was really, really excited. It excited me when I heard that, because I was like, yeah, I go through that, where it's like I'm kind of interested in a story and I work on it a little bit, and then I kind of work on it idly, and then it fades off, and I never do anything with that, right?
Was that on a Nerdist writers panel on one of those podcasts or something?
Josh Radner that's his name, Josh Radner.
Okay.
Blaine Moore.
Thanks, Blaine. I was way off. I'm always.
It was on some panel. I don't know that it was for a podcast. I honestly don't remember where it was.
Because I so resonate with this. I've got a 100,000 word book that has been sitting on my hard drive. I wrote it a few years ago, and I've been meaning to get to it. And whenever I get back to it, I think, oh, that's really cool. But oh, look at the sparkly thing. Oh, look at the sparkly thing. And there's a dog with a bushy tail. I've got so much other stuff on the go that is fresh and new, and it's the fresh and new that really keeps my momentum going. I think as far as letting stuff rest, I have to agree with you. The danger is that when you rest a manuscript too long, what you may gain in objectivity, you lose in momentum. And we all have to get to done. I'm very much interested when I evaluate what project I'm going to work on next and how much time I'm going to allocate to complete it. It has to be focused on what gets me to done.
Yeah, and so it's if this is the first novel you're working on and whatnot, then getting to done still vital. Get there. You have a little bit more flexibility. If you are actively publishing, like Robert and I, you need to lean a little bit more. It's got to happen sooner rather than later, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And but yeah, I mean, I've told that kind of that line of being on a race with your own interest, and I've told that kind of thought idea to multiple people, and they all seem to really resonate with it.
Yeah, I got my head nodding.
And and so and that's kind of that's how I approach a lot of my projects. So it's like I don't necessarily need the book to be 100% before I lose interest, but it's got to be pretty close. Like, I mean, the story's got to be out. I got to have all the big loose ends preferably tied up, and then that'll allow me to if I need to rest it a little bit and then come back and proof it once over, or just double check that I wasn't a crazy person on story structure or anything like that. And then I'm able to move on with it at that point. But so putting this in the terms of Nano going forward, I would say just in December, keep it up. If you're not done, to kind of reiterate what Robert said, if you're not done with your story at the end of Nano, then get that done before you do anything else. Absolutely do not start resting it at all.
Yeah, no.
You're not done with the story.
You won't go back to it. Well, you might try, but you'll feel like the magic is different, like who you are is different approaching it. Because I have never finished a story in the month of November. I can't. I don't know. I have never done it.
I mean, you can look at a number of people. I know, in going to write-ins, you meet a lot of people, the Nano write-ins. You meet a lot of people who participate in Nano.
Mm-hmm.
And it's alarming how many of them are working on the Nano novel from last year, right? And that's because...
Super guilty of that one.
And that's because oftentimes you hit December and you're like, well, I'm just going to take a little bit of a break. I worked really hard. I'm going to take a little bit of a break. And that little bit of a break, especially in December when it's really easy to turn that into a long break,
yeah,
that little break lasts 11 months until Nano comes back around.
Yep.
So are they doing a revision, or are they going to 100,000 for the novel?
Yeah, a little bit of, yes, all of the above. Some of them are like, I'm going to be revising last year's Nano novel, or, I'm going to continue working on last year's Nano novel, or honestly, it might just be, I started looking over last year's Nano novel, and it's a mess, and I don't remember what I was going for, so I'm going to rewrite last year's Nano novel, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that, especially, that's another kind of thing. You talk about momentum, and before you lose interest, get it all out there. That's another thing is oftentimes, unless you are very, very detailed with your notes, you can go back and read something and you're like, I don't really know what I was shooting for here. Sometimes that's good. Sometimes that means your writing missed the mark, right?
Right.
Or sometimes it's bad because you meant
can't find that thread again. Where'd that thread go?
You meant to come back and clean that up, and then you didn't, and now you don't remember what you were going for, and then now it's just chaos.
Gather round, kiddies. Uncle Chazz is going to tell you a little story. So many years ago, when I was in the Canadian publishing industry, the traditional Canadian publishing industry in Toronto, there was a author whose name I honestly don't remember. So this is not names changed to protect the innocent. I have deleted them from my consciousness, but that's actually part of the story. The deal is this: there was a guy who wrote a novel, and I remember listening to the interviews. I can't remember whether it won an award or not, but in Canada, if you win an award, that means it's a terrible novel. So in any case, if you listen to this interview with this guy, he had written his novel of a fairly good length, I think. But then he said that he rewrote it over 100 times. It might have been 120 times. It might have been 127 times. It was some outrageous number of revisions. Like, I think he bragged that, he wrote the book once, crumpled it all up, threw it away, and began again, kind of thing. And I can't remember what the book was. I can't remember him. And that's kind of the point, because he's certainly not writing now. This is somebody who got accolades and a lot of praise for doing something torturous. If it is indeed true that he did that number of full revisions, my first reaction when I heard this was, well, you can't write. If it takes 127 revisions to get to this award winner, was it worth it? And the answer is, I don't know what the book was. I can't remember who he is. He's totally disappeared from the landscape. He's just gone to sea and he's under the depths. He had one book in him. He may or may not have gotten an award for it. I can't recall the details. But what I do know is he's not coming back, because when each book takes 127 revisions, there is William Styron, who took 10 years between books. Good for him. That is not what we're doing now, and that is not what we should be shooting for. As much as I love William Styron.
I read an interesting little article, and I don't know if it was true or not. I'd like to think it was, but I think the premise is accurate. And it was an article, and it was talking about a shop teacher, high school shop teacher kind of thing, like a woodworking type class or pottery or something where you had to create something. It doesn't matter what was actually happening. I think it was like a pottery class. And he set out like a semester-long task, and he divided the students into two. And so half the class did one thing and half another. For half of the class, he told them, your grade is going to be dependent, or a large part of your grade or whatever, is going to be dependent on one thing. You need to create one, piece of pottery, and you have all semester to create it, and then you'll be graded on that one piece. And then the other half, he said, it doesn't matter, the quality of it doesn't matter. So he told the first one, I'll grade you on the quality of it. You need to create one nice piece, right? Mm-hmm. And in the other half of the class, he said, for all of you, I'm not going to grade you on quality at all, but you need to turn in one piece, no matter how good or bad, every single week. And that's it. And then the conclusion of the story, you probably know where I'm going with this, is that by the end of the class, those people who were doing it every week and just whatever, churning something out, were producing at a much higher quality level than the ones who got to sit and think and plan and take their time. And I think that there's a, whether or not the story's true, I think there's a nugget of truth there on anything that you create, is that you create by doing, and you learn by doing, and you grow by doing. You don't grow by sitting there watching other people or sitting and thinking. If you want to perfect a skill, you have to actually perform it and mess up, perform it again and mess up. And so if anyone, some people might say, I'm going to rewrite this over and over and over again. And the problem then is you're just kind of working on the same mistakes over and over and over again. You're not necessarily growing, right? It's like practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect, right? That's a little difference. And so to grow, you need to be making errors, identifying those errors, and then applying them whenever you do, preferably something new. I think it's going to be the faster way that you grow. Not to mention, while you're doing that, you're going to be generating, bringing it back to writing, you're going to be generating a lot more stories. You're going to be generating that backlist. Some of that, if you do publish yourself, great, you can sell all that stuff. And even if you don't, even if you want to go a traditional route, having all of that is going to be great for you if you want to pursue any of it in the future or do anything with it in the future. It's going to increase your tool set for writing more stuff going forward. And so, and this isn't a career path or anything that you're not going to be one and done. You're not going to just do it and then cash in and be done. It's something that you're going to have to come back to every day in and day out, whether you want to or not. And I think it'll better serve you if you get in that habit, get in that routine, and keep the momentum going and keep putting stuff out there. And there comes to a point where you just kind of got to be done with something. Finish it off, and then move on to something new, and that's how you're really, really going to grow.
Yeah. I don't want to condemn anybody who does write slow. Just as my heart gets full of angst when somebody condemns people who write fast. It's just what I don't like is when somebody says, well, I write slow and therefore everybody else should, or I write slow and nobody else can write any faster than I can. We really need to keep an open mind as far as what our speed is and know our speed, but it is ultimately about producing things. Unless you're really just writing for yourself and it's in your journal, in your diary for no one else to see, then if you're trying to make a career of this or even just a dependable side gig income, you really need to produce, you need to ship, you need to treat your art as a business. That Seth Godin line is always on my mind. Artists ship.
Yeah. I was talking about a similar thread. I was talking about it with a friend of mine last night, and at the little write-in that we were at. And Nancy, I think it was after you left. And I was talking with her, and she kind of said, it just reminded me of an interesting point, and it reminded me of Neil Gaiman's speech, right? The Make Good Art. Oh, I'm sorry, it wasn't that one. That is a great speech, by the way. Everyone go check that one out.
It was
is. The producer of Serial. I forget his name.
Ira Glass?
Yes, thank you, Ira Glass. There's an interesting speech with him, and we've talked about it, I think, on the podcast before. Interesting speech with him on YouTube. He's doing a little interview, and he basically says, at the beginning of your process when you're writing, you're just not going to have the skill set to live up to. There's going to be a difference between you as a reader and you understanding a good story and what a good story is. So you get that really cool idea in your head. You're like, I got to write this. It's going to be an awesome idea. There's a difference between you being able to interpret that as a good idea and then your skill set to actually execute and write that story to live up to what you have in your head. And so just bridging that gap. And so oftentimes I hear, I'll talk with people and they're writing their first novel and like, I got this really cool idea and I want to kind of, I want to work on it and I'm going to rework it. I'm going to do this and do that. And I think more often than not, they're going to be better served. There comes a point, I'm not saying do this immediately at all, but if you find yourself working on the same story over and over and over again, if you've hit multiple nanos working on the same story over and over and over again, you might be better served stopping and working on something else and growing that skill set of just writing and then coming back to that really cool idea.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good point, because the thing is, I think one of the mistakes that people make is they figure, I've got the cool idea. But ideas are cheap. There's a lot of cool ideas you can do. And don't get focused on one thing, and don't save a really cool idea for the next book when you can use it in this one. Because that well just keeps coming as long as you keep on going back to that well.
Yeah, I mean, it works both ways. It's don't put it off, and also don't mandate that you do it now, kind of thing.
Yeah, if you're creativity is a habit.
Right, and so if you're struggling with one story concept or whatever over and over and over again, you're just struggling to get through it, then maybe that's when you move on to something else. But if you've got a cool story then in your head and you want to work on it, then you should work on it and shoot for it. Don't put it off arbitrarily and force yourself to work on something else. But at the same time, don't force yourself to finish something when something's not working and you can't identify what that is.
I don't know. I think that has often bitten me in the ass more times than I can count. So I'm not This is what I'm working on now is a direct result of not walking away from it and letting it sit or trying to think of something else. It's just like, okay, just pick something, just put it there in the hole and keep moving. Like, there's no more time to think about it. I mean, I think that's good advice for maybe people who are a little more disciplined.
Well, let's, even going on to you, one of the things you did at the beginning of this year was put it aside and work on a series of short stories that eventually turned into one novella, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Then you came back to it, which is
Yes.
exactly what we're talking about right now.
Right, but I would probably be done with it if I had just stayed the course.
Maybe.
I'm pretty sure I'd be finished with it. Probably. But I understand what you're saying. But, I mean, sometimes, like, when you hit that roadblock when you're writing something, it doesn't need space. It needs you to, like, I don't know, grab it by the throat and figure it out.
Real quick, Robert, before you respond, so we are winding down on time. In 5 minutes-ish, I'll do the drawing. So if anyone's in here and they haven't left a message in the chat or anything like that, please leave a message. If you joined late, just leave a message of anything, and I'll get you added. We're doing a giveaway for the Scrivener for Authors course, giving away 2 of them. So. Sorry, Robert, you were going to say something.
Robert, go.
I was going to say that I think if anybody who's written a serial in real time where you put out your first episode and then a second episode and then a third episode, so it's not all done before you release it all to the public, into the wild, it is a real confidence booster in one particular aspect, and that is that you know it's all going to work out. You know, every book is different, and with repetition, you can get to this point where, and that's one of the values of this focusing on producing, is that you get enough repetition to build that confidence, where you figure out, I'm going to find the way out of this problem, this plot problem. So, for instance, when I wrote my crime thrillers, especially for the first one, I remember very clearly, I would write a chapter a day, get my crazy assassin with a heart of gold into a situation where it's like, I have no idea how I'm going to write my way out of this. How am I going to get him out of this corner that I've painted him into? And then the next day, I would find a way to get him out of that corner. And with repetition, I learned that I can always find a reasonable, logical way to get them out of that corner. I write them right in the corner, and there's no way out, and then there's another way out. There's always a way out. And I didn't have to go back and rewrite 50 pages in order to make it work. I could find the transition with a chapter or a paragraph or a line or two, but there was always a way to go forward, to make it work, to make the book work. And with that experience and that confidence, you can get a lot more shit done. But you can only find it by producing, only with repetition, only with a lot of writing. That's the value of NaNoWriMo, is it gets you to write a lot. And you can work it through. You can make a book work that isn't working by finding those right transitions, by finding that spot that you need to backfill, by finding that key to that scene that you plant the possibility of a solution in an earlier chapter, and it turns up in a later chapter. There are ways to make this puzzle all fit together, and a plot really is a jigsaw puzzle. But with a book, it's not exactly like a jigsaw puzzle, because with a book, while you're writing it and while you're editing it, you can shave those pieces to make them fit. It's a beautiful thing.
Being consistent and making it a habit, it does build a different skill set, and that will allow you to continue. So, because we are winding down a little bit on time, let's recap a little bit. So, we've been talking about ways to, persevere and push through.
Cocaine, Adderall, caffeine.
All of the above.
It's so we haven't done I haven't been around, fortunately, for we usually do like a typical hangout during the week, right? Just middle of the day, like sit back and relax, and we talk with Simon Whistler's usually there, part of his little mastermind group. And invariably, for whatever reason, for a long stretch, we always ended up talking about cocaine.
Nice. It's classy.
I was just like, what's the one thing that would make our careers a lot easier? Well, if we could both speed up our work and not need to sleep, so we got more work done just overall, man, that would really help out.
I think, to be fair, Adderall and Provigil were also discussed.
Yeah. I probably shouldn't do cocaine and Adderall at the same time, but whatever. But it was always funny. It was a recurring theme, stuff that came up. And thank you for that throwback.
Fond memories. GTs.
The rich British guy and his trebuchet, right?
Yes.
One question I did want to ask, and I saw this posted on the Houston NaNoWriMo Facebook group thing recently, and I jotted it down. So I want to get your thoughts, Robert. If you're at this point, we're about halfway through the month, what would be your advice to someone who's written less than 5,000 words in total on finishing successfully? And this is someone specifically also who's sitting down. They're probably not putting in enough time, but they are putting in effort every day. They're just, at the end of the day, they're walking away with a couple hundred words.
Okay.
Instead of a couple thousand. What's your advice to someone like that?
They have a lot of options, and I think it kind of depends on where they're at with their writing. If they've written a lot before and this is just not working out, you have still plenty of time to start a new project, because you may not be passionate enough about this one.
Let's assume that they're a NaNoWriMo type hobbyist, if you will. They don't have that skill set built up. So speaking to even a little bit of a newer writer.
So this is the one book they're probably going to write, unless they really get the bug.
Yeah, I mean, they're using NaNoWriMo to really kind of do it. This is their first real foray into writing. What's your advice to someone in that? So they don't have that skill set of what should I be doing and et cetera.
I think aside from opening a bottle of wine and really dealing with sitting, that's it. I'm suspicious that their inner editor is being too active. So if they are editing as they write, then they should stop that. They should get to the Write or Die app going right now. They should consider dictation instead of typing. They've got to get out of their own head. They've got to do writing sprints with other people. They've got to decide if they're really serious about this. And, I say serious about this. I should also point out that NaNoWriMo is fun. Like, I have more fun writing in November than I do the rest of the year because it's so much more social.
Mm-hmm.
NaNoWriMo is more of a, someone mentioned that in the Facebook group after Nancy and I did an episode about NaNoWriMo. NaNoWriMo is not just about writing 50,000 words in a month. It's about, there's a large social component to it.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys are lifelong platonic life partners because of NaNoWriMo.
I think last night she called me her sister, actually.
What did I call you?
Your sister.
I did not. You came in on the wrong part of that conversation. You only paid attention when your name was said.
Right.
I think of you as a big brother, actually.
Yes, that's what I said, Robert. But of course, Matthew heard sister, because of course he did. That's true, though. Nano brought us together.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're a unspecified gendered sibling. Go on.
Yes. Perfect.
And so, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I have a feeling that people in those shoes are probably, I think their internal editor is probably talking to them too much. And so get around that any way you can. If dictation gets you around it, great. I like to close my eyes and write. That'll stop me from correcting misspellings that I can't feel. You can feel whenever you mistype something. If you can't type by touch, that'll make that really ugly. But
just cover your screen then.
Yeah, covering your screen. That could work.
Actually, I have a silly suggestion. If people have the book by Chris Beatty, who started NaNoWriMo, the No Plot, No Problem, there's actually a page that has a little button on it that you're supposed to read through, You like say aloud to yourself that you're not going to, you're going to silence your inner editor, and then you're supposed to press the button on the page. And I did that, and I felt silly by myself. But that was in 2008, and that's still the most words I've ever written in a single month. Psychologically, I guess that really worked for me. So if you need to draw a little button and then press it, like do that.
And that's what gets me through those 50,000 word days. Is I have to consciously tell myself it's okay to write absolute garbage.
Yeah, wasn't it Ira Glass who said give yourself permission to write shit?
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know if he said that, but it sounds like he says a lot of smart things, and that's a smart thing. So
It's a smart thing.
Well, that's the thing that I think is often confused, and unfortunately, it's a confusion that happens early on in schooling. Is writing and editing are separate activities and separate skill sets. When you're writing, write. When you're editing, edit.
Agreed.
yes, I totally agree as well.
I said that with gravitas.
Excellent. So we are going to do a drawing.
Yes.
So I'll give everyone like 30 seconds. If you haven't put in the chat, hopefully you have. Get in there, and then I'll do a drawing for two people. Right now we can take this time real quick. Robert, thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Always a pleasure, big brother.
We are going to be doing a little hangout afterwards. Robert, you're welcome to join. Nancy's welcome to join. I'll be here for a little bit, probably trying to find my wine key so I can drink my wine. and then that'll be great. This live show for me is really, it's really nice. We're 200 episodes in, Nancy. That's crazy.
I know. I cannot believe that.
Yeah, it is. Because I update right whenever I post new episodes, right? I update a bunch of things, and so I write out each of the episode numbers, and so it's just weird getting in the 190s, and this is going to be number 200, and that's going to be, it's weird. So
as a lapsed podcaster, much respect, guys. That's a fantastic streak.
Yeah, I think October was our 6th month.
Oh my goodness.
May, June, July. August, September, October, right? That's 6 complete months.
Complete.
Not to mention, yeah, because we did a lot of recording in April just for May, but so yeah, we're moving into our 7th month. We're halfway through our 7th month, which is bonkers. So
it is.
As a reminder, we wanted to do an actual live show. We were probably going to be doing that for our 1 year. It's going to be most likely. This is not official announcements or anything like that, but we're targeting April 30th. It's a Saturday. And then I need to still sit down and meet with the people at the one place. And so the lady the event
place.
Yeah, the event coordinator has been on vacation for the last week. And so I need to sit down and meet with her. Apparently the owner as well, and we're going to try and get the space all squared away and do that soon. Hopefully, maybe not by the end of November, but in the beginning of December, get that squared away.
Nice.
And so we'll be able to do an actual live show, and it's going to be super, super fun.
Yay!
You're talking end of April, right?
April 30th, yep.
Yes.
April 30th.
Right. Depending on how my Christmas sales go, I would really like to go to that.
Man, that would be awesome.
I don't know if I can handle meeting you in person, Robert. It would be too much fangirl.
I really appreciate that, but I'm actually only 3'2". I'm not imposing at all.
Oh, Hobbit size! Perfect.
I'm standing on my chair right now.
One of our friends was teasing you because you were wearing a White Sox hat. She's a hardcore baseball fan.
Oh, yeah.
You would really enjoy getting you. Yep, you're going to grab the White Sox hat. There it is.
Oh, my goodness.
You would really enjoy making sure that you have a Houston Astros hat.
Yes.
Well, if the World Series had gone differently, I would be wearing a Blue Jays hat, but we shall not speak of this.
Oh.
That's fine. I'm not as big as a Astros fan. I like the Diamondbacks, but the Astros are fun too whenever they're not playing each other. Okay, so time for a drawing, and we just got a new listener apparently. She just posted. Liz, welcome.
You know, right?
Hi, Liz.
Welcome, Liz.
We love you, Liz.
I added her to my list here. So let's do the drawing real quick. I figured out how to do this much more efficiently than our 100th episode. Okay. A couple buttons.
Do you
You
have
got
a
a-
generator now?
He's
Well,
got a
no.
big barrel full of ping pong balls.
I've got it. Well, no, I've got Excel.
Oh my gosh, I
Yeah.
wish.
Excel will choose random numbers for you, so which I didn't realize before. It's
Oh,
one of their functions.
that
So it
sounds
looks like. So we have two winners. The first winner is Philip Harris. Philip, congratulations.
Yay, Philip! Congratulations.
Congrats.
Second winner is Julie Andrews. So Julie, congratulations.
Congratulations,
Woo!
Julie. You get an Author Strong tutorial.
Yeah, so I'll get you guys free access. Shoot me an email, matt@authorstrong.com, and so I'll have your email and everything, and then I can get you invited, and everything will work out.
And by the way, I should say that I have perused this course. I have gone through, and you did a fantastic job, Matt. It's really good.
I appreciate that. There's still more that I'm doing, but I appreciate it. I'm adding a lot of stuff, and it's long. There's a lot of stuff for Scrivener in there. And then Robert, you were kind enough. You donated one of your books, one of your novellas to us, and I did the Create Space module, walking people through. There's still more I want to add to that, but I think that I was really, really satisfied with how that turned out.
Turned out great. Can't wait to use it. One thing I love about the course is, although you've got a lot of information, you didn't make any of the videos too long. So it's really bite-sized. You can go through the course, and it feels like you're cruising right along very nicely. It's very great, very natural transitions. So you have short videos, and it just goes da 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 da, one piece to the other one to the other one. So it doesn't feel like you're getting a huge info dump. You can stop between videos instead of feeling like you have to pause in the middle. And so you don't feel like you're missing anything. It's in bite-sized chunks, so you can actually learn, absorb, and use Scrivener much more effectively than you've ever used it before. I have had Scrivener for years, and it's only now that I feel like I'm beginning to understand it because Big Brother explained it to me.
I appreciate that. Yeah, so the goal was to do a couple things. It was to not only teach people how to do things in Scrivener, but also to show them how I do things in Scrivener. And so I kind of walk you through the steps of what goes into writing a book. And so I walk you through kind of the process I would use, and I also include other things, and they fall generally along that timeline. That's how I ordered it all. And so, but it's also set up so that if I want to know more about collections, I've got a couple of videos on collections, and I can just go watch those. If I want to know more about keywords, I've got a video on keywords. You can just go watch that. And so that was kind of like the dual purpose of the way I laid it out and structured it and organized it.
That's the thing about Scrivener, though, is that even if you've had Scrivener, like for years, I've had Scrivener, but I never used the tool to its fullest capacity. And the way that Matt has laid it out, I feel like I know it much better, and I can do what he's suggesting consistently instead of doing each book on this kind of ad hoc basis of I'll blunder my way through, and I think I've kind of got it. And why is this a problem still? There are a little because of the complexity of the program and because it can do so much. It's so easy to get hung up on a step, and this is such a valuable course that I think everybody who is thinking about writing a book, you need Scrivener, and because you need Scrivener, you need Matt's course, because you don't want to go through the manual, trust me. It's ridiculous.
I bet.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to it, so I appreciate that endorsement. I spent a lot of time, I'm still spending a lot of time getting this thing finalized and out there, so hopefully everyone else will be able to get as much out of it as well. I think that's about us. We're about it. So real quick, I don't think we actually got through the recap earlier, but real quick. So sprints, right? Write or die. Turn off your internal editor. You could get through all the nano stuff. And then afterwards, don't lose momentum. Build on the momentum. Honestly, the momentum is going to be one of the most important things just in life, in anything you're working on. Momentum is huge. Same thing with writing. Don't lose it. Move straight into editing. Get your book until it's mostly finished. If you want to rest it at that point, great. If you don't, great. Just keep moving forward. But don't rest it until you've got a nearly finalized, I'm done with this, no big open ends, nothing big outstanding kind of moment. And I think that's gonna serve you.
Something else just occurs to me that I think I should probably add, because a while back I got into a podcast called The 5 a.m. Miracle, And you don't have to necessarily get up at 5 a.m., but it is about starting earlier in the day. And Tim Ferriss talks a little bit about decision fatigue as well. How the longer you put off writing in the day, the less likely you're going to do it, and of course, the less time you'll have, the less likely you'll get more done. And it's great to work when you're most energized. So for some people, that is going to be doing it on a Wednesday night at a writing sprint at a bar with a bunch of other people. But for the day-to-day grind, a lot of it comes down to, for me, if I get it started in the day early, if I don't delay starting, then I'll get so much more done. Because starting, I think Stephen King said this actually, starting is the scariest part. Once you start, then you're good. But if you put it off and delay it, it's very much like going to the gym. I mean, NaNoWriMo is a fantastic opportunity to gain a whole lot of friends, allies, colleagues, and accountability partners. But to really decrease the time between when you're going to begin to write and when you actually write. Cut down that decision-making time as fast as possible. Just get up and write. Just do it.
Dominic asked if there's a roundabout price for it yet. There is a roundabout price. The problem is I have a roundabout for the final price, but we're going to be doing some heavy discounting. We're going to do a pre-release later on this month, and that price will be probably close to half of the final retail price. I don't know specifics on those yet, and so I don't want to share anything. Dominic, I think you're a member of the Facebook group, and if anyone else is not a member, make sure you head over to authorstrong.com, click the little button at the top that says join the Facebook group, and we'll get you in there. Because anyone in the Facebook group will most likely be the first people to know what the final pricing is, and they'll also be made aware of when we are doing the discounting at the beginning. So we're gonna offer at the very end of this month a very heavily discounted course, and then it'll go up in price on the official launch in December, and it will probably go up in price to its final price in January. So just make sure you're in the Facebook Facebook group, excuse me, and you'll be one of the first people to know.
So buy early, buy often.
Well, you have to buy early, and you only have to buy once. So thankfully, and then you get your lifetime access to it. So, Leland just showed up. Leland's been posting on YouTube. Leland, hello. I hope no one else was posting on YouTube. I didn't check, but hopefully everyone's been posting here. But in any case, I think that's gonna do it for us. It's been a lot of fun. Robert, thanks for coming on the show. You were one of the first people we had on the show. You were the first person we interviewed.
Yes.
And so that was a lot of fun. Thank you for sticking around and still talking to us. Nancy, thanks for doing this with me. It's been a ton of fun. And
it is. Thank you, Matt, for all that you do and try to downplay behind the scenes. You do a shit ton of work, and it is appreciated, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I think that's going to do it for us. Robert, why don't you tell everyone where they can go find
Yes.
you and find all of your wonderful stuff. In fact, I put some of it already in the show notes. Everyone who's chatting, scroll up. You get to see some of Robert's links right there because I was smart and did it preemptively. But Robert, tell all of our listeners that aren't watching where they can go.
I am at allthatchaz.com. Chaz is with 2 Z's, 2 Z's if you're nesty.
Excellent. Allthatchaz.com. You can go to the show notes on authorstrong.com and click through from there as well. But I think for now, that's going to do it for us. So for Robert Chazz Chute and for Nancy Elliott, I'm Matt Morris. This has been the Author Strong Podcast. Take care.